Great. So I'm Sami. I'm one of the co-founders at Kutana. And today, mainly, I want to really share our journey with you. So PS is really not a pitch. It's just to tell you where we are at now and the things we've been doing so far. So I'll be checking my notes whilst I do this. So just forgive me if I keep going down to check. So I'll start by telling a little bit about how we began, right? So we've built out a multi-currency digital wallet system, and this is backed by a stablecoin treasury. Now, our goal as a company is really what we say is we really want to build a world where financial borders no longer hold businesses and freelancers across Africa back. Now, to do this, we initially launched in Ghana, as well as across Nigeria and Kenya. One of the things that we are learning across the market is, and in fact, generally speaking, our experience has been and can be summarized into one specific question we almost always get anytime we go to market every single day. And that question is, what is your current exchange rate? This is a question we get from most businesses. We have been able to trade and work with over 1,000 freelancers, as well as over 450 plus SMEs across African market. And that's suffice to say, we go to market every day talking about exchange rates with over 1,450 people every single day. Now, let me tell you about how this actually works in practice, right? So on our platform, people come to our platform and they ask about one question. I have Ghana cedis or I have Nigerian naira. I want to send money, or I want to transact to China, to the next African country, Nigeria as well, or I want to transact to to pay in the US. Now, what we normally do is we then go to our partners, counterparty partners. Specifically, these are partners who are also running what you call over-the-counter trades. And this is literally, to give you a picture, is a WhatsApp group where you go and then you ask for rates. This is sometimes very time-consuming for us to do. Now, I'm laying this foundation for you to understand exactly how things happen for us today. Now, because our underlying infrastructure for settlement is mostly stable coins, we would normally be engaging in a lot of price negotiations to be able to get the right price for most of the customers that we work with. Now, SMEs and freelancers, generally speaking, across many African markets, because of our infrastructure, are having to pay a high premium just to access foreign currencies. And even if they are trading across the African continent, sometimes the premiums could be around 5% and sometimes all the way up to like 100%, depending on the country you're working with. So we know that this is simply a serious pricing problem that we need to solve for. Now, right now, the reason this happens this way is the current implementation of the stable coins we would use, which is your usual USDT or USDT or USDC, is they are all USD backed. Now, what that means is this is still a clear, especially across Africa, clear dollarization of many currencies as we speak, which is not as efficient as you would want it. Now, I generally believe that SMEs and freelancers across the continent deserve a lot more better. And this is where we are working towards. But despite all this, I think the one thing we can be very clear on our side is we, as a company, we've been able to make transacting across Africa something that works in a matter of seconds. And to give you an idea, transacting from Ghana to Nigeria or to Kenya or to South Africa can happen in a matter of just 4 seconds through Kutana. We now see like a huge month-on-month growth, over 200% month-on-month growth on our platform at the moment. And we also have like current demand of over $10 million on the weekly transaction volume, which, by the way, we cannot meet because of the kind of FX pricing you have on the market at the moment. It's not great, it's not preferential, it's just too expensive for most of our customers. Now, how do we solve this? I want to walk you through what we are doing and what we are trying to do to actually make this, this particular problem a thing of the past. At the moment, our next phase in building is really we need to, and we are looking to build a very defensible moat as a company. What does that look like? First is get regulated in as many markets as possible. Now, number two is we are also looking at building strong and strategic partnerships that will allow us access things like great FX and data points that allow us to actually trade better in the market. And then we are building strong and leveraging strong partnerships on a stable coin front as well. Now, the other thing that I really want to catch on or mention is we've already raised about 500K as a company from funds here, based here, and also from Germany. And at the moment, we have commitments from JP Morgan execs, as well as strategic investment from one of Europe's largest FX swaps platform. Now, we are currently in talks with national and regional payment switches to spread the good news of Kutana, our platform, across many markets in Africa. And this changes the game for how transactions across Africa is going to be like. So I'll end here, and I'll probably ask that we have an exhibition booth behind there is Kutana. Please come to talk to us if you want to learn more. Thank you.
So Launch Africa, we are an early stage Pan-African venture capital fund. We started our journey 5 years ago when there was a crevasse of lack of early stage funding for startups on the continent. Since then, we have gone on to raise 2 funds, and we have deployed somewhere around $50 million onto the continent into 160 startups across 25 different countries. And what makes us different is that we see the role that VC has to play in innovation, and we know that fintech founders need e-commerce founders to be able to create the marketplaces where their payment rails are used and vice versa. And those e-commerce founders need those last mile logistics founders to be able to deliver the goods that they're selling. And we really see that this ecosystem needs a generalist investor everywhere, because as we have all discussed many times today, 54 countries, but can we connect them better? Can we help these founders to be able to work cooperatively and do cross-border in the same way that we see with Europe and how strong that is and the economic growth that that provides? So in a nutshell, that's what Launch Africa is doing. We have a lot more on the agenda for 2026, so definitely look on our LinkedIn for the next 6 months as well. But I'll hand back to Dan for the rest of the day. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Eunice. For a full-time job, I'm actually a founder, so I really enjoyed that founder panel, and I run a company called Ishango, which provides outsourced data science teams, and our developer teams sit in Africa, connecting them to clients in Europe and the US. But today I'm here with a project that's been working on for the last 5 years in partnership with the University of Leicester. I'm here with my colleague, Dr. Winfred Onyas, who is an associate professor, and she'll come on shortly to also quickly finish this intro. The project is DigiEco Africa, and we set ourselves the very humble goal of trying to understand and address the digital gender gap in tech in Africa. As you know, it's a very complicated challenge, and which is why we partnered with the university, because we wanted to kind of have knowledge-led, research-based initiatives and solutions. So one of the solutions that we came up with is addressing the gap in aspirations and mentorship. Now, as somebody that's worked in tech space in Africa for a long time, I've heard the phrase that, African women or women in tech in general are over-mentored and underfunded. So coming around to kind of having an initiative focused on mentorship took quite a bit of convincing for me and quite a bit of research. But one of the things we found is that the issue is not that there's too much mentorship, or that mentorship doesn't have a role to play alongside the other solutions of funding and infrastructure, etc., but that there isn't the right kind of mentorship. And so one of the things we're trying to do is figure out how do we give women in tech in Africa along the career pathway into tech the right mentorship at the right time. And how we are doing that is we've developed a platform called DigiEco Africa, where we are, one, building a community of women in tech who are willing to share their expertise and skills to inspire and support the next generation. This was backed by, maybe I'll talk about that in the next couple of slides. But basically, this came out of an initiative called the Coalition for Digital Equality. And some of the findings that we did in our research was that there is quite a good pipeline of women in tech coming into tech in Africa. So around 47% of graduates in STEM are women, but then there's a big drop-off that happens at certain critical points. So transitioning into tech roles, there's a big drop-off there. Then when it comes to moving up in those roles into leadership positions, there's a very big drop that happens there. Founding, again, there is a huge number of founders that are founding tech-led businesses, but then when it comes to raising capital, growing, scaling, I don't think I'm probably preaching to the choir here, but there is a big drop there. So for us, it was about how do we start to address some of those problems at those critical drop-off points. The first thing we're doing is building a community. So one, we have on the DigiEco Africa platform, women in tech can go on and register to become mentors. So a lot of us, myself included, I have a well-meaning to mentor and give support, but along my day-to-day life of running a business, I rarely get the time to seek out opportunities and give my time. So with DigiEco Africa was about being able to be found. So we're putting together this database of women in tech that are intentional and willing to give their time, being able to ring fence how much time I can give, being able to indicate which particular target groups that I'm willing to support. For me, it is founders, women in tech founders that are starting out that I'm passionate about. And then having this database so that it's available, and when programs are being run on the continent, they're able to find you and be able to engage with you. Could I get the previous slide, please? Just very quickly. The other thing we're doing is working with local organizations in Africa. So for now, we're working with 2 organizations in Ghana and 1 in Uganda. These are digital innovation hubs and programs that actually run mentorship programs for women in tech careers and female founders programs. And then we're connecting them to our mentor community. Alongside all of this, it's all about amplifying role models. We've all heard the term, you can't necessarily be what you can't see. So it's really about just showing a wider pool of what success looks like and what women in tech look like. I think part of the issue we had is there's a few women in tech who've sort of made it, the ones who've raised some money, and it's always the same faces being put forward as role models. And so if that person doesn't necessarily reflect you or your journey, it's much harder. So we're really about trying to create a wider pool there. So these are the delivery partners I mentioned, 2 of them in Ghana, Hyperspace that works with female founders, Developers in Vogue that teaches technology skills and places women into technology careers, and Mukazepreneur that also works with female founders in Uganda and Ghana. This is just some pictures of the programs we ran last month as part of International Women's History Month. Again, these are just one of the first programs we're running. Next. Yeah, and maybe I'll invite Dr. Winfred to come and speak about this, because we spoke to a few of you over there, but we have an ask. We want to engage with the ecosystem, not only to understand your perspectives on the problem, but to be a part of the solution we're trying to build. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eunice. Thank you, everyone, for your time and listening to us. I just wanted to say that how can you get involved with us? Yes, we're already working on something, and we're working with partners in Africa, but then, we got some funding from the UK Research and Innovation, but then we want to get this going. One, you can join as a mentor if you're a woman in technology, to give of your time, as Eunice has talked about it. And also, you can join in as a role model. You can sponsor a mentorship program. We've run a program in March, and we're really wanting to go forward with this and also become a delivery partner as one of those organizations. I think that's the last slide now, Eunice. Yeah. So you can join our community, and also what we're doing now is beyond working with the mentors, beyond working with the organizations, we're also wanting to go more broadly into the ecosystem, which is why we're here. And it's, we've had some conversations with some of you just to get your understanding of this, and also ideas in terms of how we can get deeper into the ecosystem. So I would like to welcome you. We are here. If you want to have a conversation with us, we want to hear from you. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tommy Edwards, and this used to be the name of my company, although it's basically changed now. I had a different slide, but I don't think the slide got through, so I'm going to just basically speak to you guys on what we've been doing. So the name of the company, it's a new name. It's called People XYZ. We used to be at Tech1M, and the main reason for the change was Tech1M basically does AI recruitment, so it's an AI-first platform that basically uses multiple AI agents to help you find the right candidates. But then when we go to speak to people in healthcare, people in logistics, they just couldn't see themselves in it because they felt it was something more for the tech organizations because of the name, and I don't blame them. But then we grew. We were able to raise over $1 million. And then we grew, and as we started growing, we started to see that what we really need to do goes beyond just recruitment. What happens after they've been hired? And this is where we went into onboarding, compliance, payments, and that's how People XYZ was born. So right now, we're an AI-first intelligence platform, an operating system for your non-permanent workforce. So everything that has to do with how you find them, that could be your entry into our platform. But it could also be, how do you onboard them compliantly? Does anyone here hire contractors? Raise your hand if you do. All right, fantastic. Have you heard about the JSL rule? All right, fantastic. So you're my audience. So the JSL rule comes into effect basically on Monday. And it came out of what Rachel Reeves read on the 26th of November. So we're all aware of the IR35, non-IR35, but what the rule says is if you're hiring a contractor that is in IR35, initially, if the contractor isn't paying the right salary, the first thing they were doing was going after the contractor. And then later on, it went to going after the umbrella company. But from Monday, they'll go after you. However, should you have an agency, a recruitment agency in the middle, then they'll go after the recruitment agency. So it's called the Joint Severe Liability Rule, and it comes into effect April 6th. Now, what are we solving for? We're giving you the total visibility that you require to be able to operate with any recruitment organization, umbrella company you want to operate with, but have the total visibility to be sure that they are compliant. And this is what one of our AI compliance agents does, and use that in helping, being kind of like the very first system that brings together umbrella companies, recruiters, companies, and the contractor with total visibility all in one. And this is one of the key areas that we've started to see great adoption and great take-up for companies. This works for whatever size of company you are. However, the companies really affected by the JSL rule are medium to very large organizations. And so that is what we're doing. But then you could imagine right now, contractors, and I've been a contractor for so many years, and typically I'll get my timesheet signed off somewhere else. I'll get an email with my pay slip. All of that is like a nightmare. You're trying to apply for a mortgage. You have to now go through your emails and start to scroll to find that out. People XYZ solves that problem because you just need to have an evidence vault and you could find everything in there. So that's what we're working on. If it sounds interesting to you, come speak to me. But then I probably need to give a shout out to what we're doing with the UK Africa. So we were one of the companies that went with the Mayor of London to Lagos and to Cape Town, which was fantastic. And we got to really understand the ecosystem very well. And I'm excited to say that we'll be launching in Nigeria in May, especially with the new tax laws that Nigeria has just brought out, which means that a lot more companies are pushing their employees to become contractors, which is a sweet spot for us. So we'll just continue growing in that market. And in Cape Town as well, we're beginning to see great opportunities for what we're doing in there. So thank you so much for listening. If you want to have a conversation, I'll be somewhere within the audience.
I'll speak just a few words about Tanga Ventures. Or Tanga Angels. So we are trying to launch a syndicate angel group to invest into what we call spin-offs, which are university spin-offs across Africa. And with Tanga Angels, the focus has been more into try to figure out what happens when somebody have done a research at school or university in Africa, for instance, Cape Town University. And then that research had been formulated to become more or less like a business entity. But these kind of opportunities, they lack huge access to capital. So that's what we are trying to solve with Tanga Angels. So with Tanga Angels, it's in a syndicate. So what we're looking for is investing in those kind of people or professionals or founders that are coming from that research kind of background. So for anybody that is very interested with the focus on research spin-offs, reach out to us on Tanga Angels on all social medias, LinkedIn, or even on our website. We'd love to hear from you and chat. Thank you.